It's an emails-only edition of Not Sam Wrestling, and we've got a lot to say about that CM Punk promo on Monday Night Raw. Welcome back to Not Sam Wrestling. I told you that I'd be back on a week this big. How could we keep it to one podcast? Of course, for those of you that are new to Not Sam Wrestling, you know that every week on Not Sam Wrestling, we do the emails. And on this week's podcast, there was simply too much to talk about to get to it. So I wanted to devote an entire podcast just to the emails. So that's what we'll do today. And the timing couldn't be better. Coming off of CM Punk's historic return, not only to the WWE, but now to Monday Night Raw as well. Let's get to your emails of the week. Of course, these emails are coming in to notsamwrestling@gmail.com. That's notsamwrestling@gmail.com. And by the way, if this is a format that you enjoy, if you think the emails deserve their own show, then I guess email me and tell me, or of course on YouTube, leave a message in the comments. Listen, I'm going to start. I feel like I'm Triple H at the press conference at Survivor Series. I know where you want to go. I see the subject line already. This is coming from Jake. Hey, Sam, what did you think of CM Punk's return promo? He writes, I saw a lot of people upset about it and discrediting how good the promo really was, but to me it seemed very intentional. If you watch Seth Rollins' promo, Rollins called him a hypocrite, and Punk spoke with the highest form of hypocrisy by saying that he's home and he's back where he belongs. It also ended with, well, we know what it ended with. Thank you, Jake, and thank you for getting me started. I will answer your email by addressing the elephant in the room. Of course, we all sat there and for 3 hours waited for that CM Punk promo. Randy Orton gave us a great opening segment, a tag team turmoil match, a women's tag team match, Cody Rhodes entering the Royal Rumble, Nia Jax match, everything until finally Randy Orton drops Dominic Mysterio with an RKO, and Michael Cole makes the announcement that coming up next, CM Punk would be on Monday Night Raw. We see the shot of the door. Apparently, WWE hasn't learned their lesson, and for some reason on WWE television, CM Punk also has his own locker room. Historically, that hasn't been the best decision, but we're not here to talk about history. We're here to talk about the present. CM Punk comes out. Now, in order to fully contextualize, I'll first say this. Here's, I got response from a lot of people that were disappointed in CM Punk's promo. The fact is, CM Punk did not drop a pipe bomb. And there were some that were tuning into Monday Night Raw because they wanted to see CM Punk doing what only CM Punk could do. Not cutting a wrestling promo, dropping a pipe bomb. And we did not get a pipe bomb. But was it even appropriate to expect a pipe bomb? Now, expect is probably the wrong word, because expectations deserve to be as high as they could possibly be. It's CM Punk returning to the WWE for the first time. It's as historic as a return has been arguably ever. But when you look at what's really going on with CM Punk's current status in the WWE, what made CM Punk famous, what made the pipe bomb so valuable, was that CM Punk spoke directly to the audience, breaking character in a way that was not being done in 2011. What made CM Punk so popular in the WWE from 2006 to 2011 was that he represented a type of wrestler that was not getting love in the WWE. He represented somebody from the independents that was simply not being represented. WWE said, no, only from the ground up. That's what we do. And we got great superstars. We got Randy Orton. We got John Cena. We got Batista. We got Brock Lesnar. But that entire generation of independent wrestlers had to wait. And that's where the Daniel Bryans came in. Eventually, that's where the Seth Rollins would come from. But if you look at the landscape has changed. And maybe it's for the better. And maybe it is because of CM Punk. Maybe he delivered on what he promised he was going to deliver on. But CM Punk represented something that the audience wasn't getting. That's why he became the voice of the voiceless. Because the WWE audience said, we want things to be this way. and it was never happening. CM Punk was the only representation of that thing that was what we loved and that broke the mold of what the WWE had predictably been doing for years. Here's the difference. In 2023, CM Punk comes back to a WWE where if you ask the WWE audience, they've maybe not been this satisfied with the product in over a decade. People who watch Raw like WWE. People who go to pay-per-views like the shows. People who go to house shows like the shows. When you go to a live WWE event, the good guys get cheered, the bad guys get booed. People are enjoying the product as they're watching it. And without putting too fine a point on it, that wasn't necessarily the case when CM Punk was there. And that is one of the things that made the pipe bomb so valuable and made CM Punk so important. But CM Punk, here's a few things he can't do. Number one, he can't go on WWE TV and go, man, aren't you guys glad there's a savior here? Because this show stinks, am I right? Because the audience would go, actually, we like the show, man. I don't agree with you at all on that. He's certainly not going to go and take a big dump all over AEW. Because number one, it would be very similar. He did that in AEW. You can't go to AEW, take a dump on WWE, leave AEW to take a dump on AEW in WWE. And number two, again, without putting too fine a point on it, Coke doesn't mention Pepsi. Pepsi mentions Coke. No pun intended there, but it made me chuckle. WWE is not in the business of mentioning AEW. In fact, what WWE is in the business of is saying, hey, Punk is back for the first time in 10 years. And that's why, if you look at what the promo was, that's what it couldn't be. So it couldn't be trashing AEW because it makes no sense. It couldn't be, hey, the savior is here to save you from a product that stinks, because that doesn't make any sense. And it also couldn't be, hey, let me run down my grievances for why I hate everybody in the locker room. Because then CM Punk is doing the thing that everybody doesn't like that he does, being quote unquote toxic. So what does he do? He goes in there, and in my opinion, he does tell a story. The promo was quick. It wasn't 15 minutes. But it didn't need to be. CM Punk isn't coming into WWE right now and going, man, I've been gone out of wrestling for 8 years, and I'm finally back. We heard that story. We heard that story at the United Center. So what are you doing now here in WWE? And I think that if you put that promo in a vacuum, if you put it in a bubble and just judge it for what it was, you'll find that it was actually a decent promo. And, in my opinion, accomplished a lot. He shows up and says that he's home. I found that to be exceptionally heavy-handed. I found that to be almost absurd based on what this man has said publicly for years. And I'm going to tell you right now, there is no way that over the course of several months, it's not going to happen on Twitter today, but over the course of several months, Seth Rollins will point out that you said you're home. What about what you said before? I promise you it's going to come up. We're not hearing this from CM Punk as if everything he's been saying never existed, okay? So yes, I'm home was extremely heavy-handed and doesn't make a ton of sense. However, based on the storytelling that the WWE has been doing over the last year and a half, I would say that it was clearly intentional. Number two, we got CM Punk telling this story of the fact that he was well-liked in the locker room, of the fact that people kissed him on his mouth, of the fact that people were happy to see him. CM Punk said, the only people that weren't happy to see me were the people that think I've raised the bar too high. The only people that weren't happy to see me were the people that are scared that I'm here because being the best just became unattainable. Because they've been calling themselves the best, and now the real best is here. And it scares them, and I've raised the bar too high, and that's why they're mad. This wasn't a throwaway line. This was a direct shot towards Seth Rollins. I'm getting texts from Hot Dog, and he's telling me, why wouldn't they just start an angle? Seth, coming out at the top of the 10 o'clock hour and saying, as they're chanting CM Punk at him, don't chant that hypocrite's name at me. And then an hour later, CM Punk saying, anybody that's not happy I'm here is just mad because I set the bar too high and I'm better than they are. Well, who's he talking about? I don't know. Maybe the guy that just called him a hypocrite an hour ago. It's right there. So we've got that. He references, I'm the best in this ring, on this microphone, at commentary. Why did he say that? It's a direct reference to his classic WWE work. It's just a reflection. He goes, a wise man once told me that to get everything I can get out of this place, I have to leave and then come back, or whatever he said. But the point was the beginning. A wise man once told me. It wasn't a wise man. It was the wise man, Paul Heyman. Now we're sprinkling more breadcrumbs. And then he says, I'm back. And at the end, off microphone, says, I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to make money. If you're telling me that the foundation for a story was not potentially, at least potentially, benefit of the doubt laid in that promo, I don't know that I can have that conversation with you in good faith. Now, if you're telling me it wasn't as impactful as it could have been, I respect that opinion. If you're telling me, well, that promo was not as big as the promo that he cut when he returned to AEW, I respect that. That's true. That promo was not as big as the pipe bomb. Yeah, that's true. That promo was not as big as when he was in the ring with Vince McMahon and they were renegotiating his contract, that whole segment. All that's true. But what if this is what it looks like for CM Punk to be around for a while? What if there is an actual intention not to bring in CM Punk to pop an overnight rating and to put him, front and center as the top guy wrestling every week? What if the idea is to just get a nice, slow start going? Because as I said on the Monday podcast, CM Punk should not be wrestling week by week. CM Punk is an attraction wrestler, which means me personally, my personal opinion, CM Punk should not wrestle before the Royal Rumble. And at the Royal Rumble, he should be in the Royal Rumble match. Why should CM Punk be in the Royal Rumble match instead of wrestling Seth Rollins? Because if CM Punk is in the Royal Rumble match, it's going to make people think, oh, he's going to win and challenge Seth Rollins. If Cody Rhodes is in the Royal Rumble match, and he is in the Royal Rumble match, people are going to think he's going to win the Royal Rumble and he's going to challenge Roman Reigns. Now you've got two obvious, everyone knows he's going to win participants in that match, which means with only two people listed, the match has become unpredictable. Why wasn't there physicality? Why didn't Seth and CM Punk just start brawling right there? Well, because if CM Punk isn't going to wrestle until the end of January, and that's going to be in the Royal Rumble match, if we're not getting the Seth Rollins match until at least the Royal Rumble, if not WrestleMania, I believe WrestleMania, then here's what would happen. CM Punk and Seth Rollins getting into physicality this week would go, hey, Drew McIntyre, we see this story that you're building with Seth. We thought we might take every bit of steam out of it. Is that cool with you? We want to be able to have the conversation. Drew McIntyre might beat Seth Rollins, and it would lead to Seth and CM Punk having a match with no title on the line. If Seth Rollins and CM Punk go all the way to step 3, now, who possibly gives a you-know-what about Seth and Drew McIntyre? So Is it difficult being patient? Extremely. Do I want something earth-shattering right now? Yes. But logically speaking, looking at where we're at and what the goal is, I would say that that was a successful promo from CM Punk on Monday Night Raw. If you disagree with me, you disagree with me. Leave it in the comments, send an email. We'll talk about it more. I promise. And I understand the disagreements. And I understand the fact that, like, people waited 3 hours and they didn't want an 8-minute promo that was just a wrestling promo. But ultimately, anything else long term is probably not the best thing for business. Because if you want CM Punk in the WWE to do what he did when he got to AEW, then wouldn't you be worried that CM Punk is eventually going to do in WWE what he eventually did in AEW? And I don't mean anything besides be gone from the company. We want CM Punk around. CM Punk is on a show now where he is not the show. When CM Punk got to AEW, he was the show. When CM Punk returned to AEW, he was literally Collision. He was the OG Collider. He was the show. In 2023 WWE, CM Punk is not the show. CM Punk is a part of the show. Roman Reigns is a part of that show. Brock Lesnar is a part of that show. Seth Rollins is a part of that show. LA Knight is a part of the show. Sami Zayn is a part of the show. Jey Uso is a part of the show. But none of them are the show. Randy Orton is a part of the show. But WWE has gotten to the point where provably Cody Rhodes, part of the show. But WWE has been able to provably show that any of those elements can be removed. And the show continues to succeed. And you could even say, not Roman. Really? Really? Not Roman. WWE didn't succeed from WrestleMania to SummerSlam without Roman defending his title. WWE didn't succeed from SummerSlam to Crown Jewel without Roman on TV at all. I'm not saying Roman is irrelevant, but what I am saying is WWE is not looking for a singular star to save the show. WWE is looking for stars to add to a roster full of stars. And that's what we get, I believe, with CM Punk. All right, this is an email show, for love of God. An email show. I've only gotten to one email, and we're almost 20 minutes in. Camp Blade writes in, now that Randy's back and we only have 2 rules to live by, will you be adding some much-needed structure to our lives and replacing rule number 3? I am strongly considering replacing rule number 3. I would love listener suggestions. The 3 rules of Not Sam Wrestling have been, watch the product, speculate wildly, and we don't fantasy book Randy Orton. Rule number 3 is gone. We're down to our 2 rules, but I am always open to hearing what a 3rd rule could possibly be. That said, I think it tells you everything you want to know about how powerful this show is. What's the first thing that Randy Orton said? When Randy Orton returned to the WWE and he picked up a microphone, what's the first thing that he said? What was he doing while he was gone? He watched the product. You mean to tell me that the man who rule number 3 was about referenced rule number 1 on Monday Night Raw, and Randy Orton is not Samsonite? Randy Orton is a not Samsonite confirmed. He is a shill. Top tier. All right. Anthony writes in, Sam, with CM Punk back in the fold and multiple stories that could be told with Randy Orton's return, and we can tell them, Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, and WrestleMania approaching, when does Priest cash in? Personally, I'd like to see Cody versus Orton at Mania. So Cody versus Orton at Mania, I don't know what I don't think, first of all, I don't think Cody versus, I get it. I think we will see Cody versus Orton. I don't think that's this year's WrestleMania. You know, it gets fishy, right? Because now you've got Drew and Seth. Let's be honest. I would love to see Jey Uso as heavyweight champion. After Sami Zayn put it into the ether by specifically saying it was his goal, I would love to see Sami Zayn win the World Heavyweight Championship. And Damian Priest, to me, has to successfully cash in. If he fails at a cash in, he's damaged, the briefcase is damaged, just beyond recognition. I can't handle it. So when does that happen? Well, if it gets to WrestleMania and Priest has not cashed in, we've got 2 months before the Money in the Bank pay-per-view. Priest could cash in. Well, you could get creative, have the Money in the Bank pay-per-view. Well, no, you know, you can't have him do it at the Money in the Bank pay-per-view because then it would be obvious. If you're going to have Priest cash in at the Money in the Bank pay-per-view, it has to be one of those things that you're advertising in advance, in which case, asinine. So it'd have to be 2 months within, if you're... I mean, because Drew is confirmed heel. So the idea of him taking it and then... I would probably have him hold it during the build to WrestleMania so he can threaten to ruin the main event. Right? Don't worry, Punk. It's going to be me you're facing. You know, well, if Drew wins it, because we haven't thought about this, right? Drew could win the title. Jey Uso could win the Royal Rumble. Well, if Jay's going to face Jimmy at WrestleMania, though. What if Jay's not going to face Jimmy at WrestleMania? Or Sammy's... What about this? What if Seth loses the title to Drew? Sami Zayn wins the Royal Rumble, causing confrontation between Cody Rhodes and Sammy. You did it, Sammy. At WrestleMania, we get Seth versus Punk, Jimmy versus Jay, Roman versus Cody, and we get Drew versus Sammy. And the story going into that match is that Drew is not going to let his WrestleMania moment be taken again. It was taken when he won it. It was taken at 36 because of the pandemic. It was taken at 37 because of Bobby Lashley. He did not get it back. I don't even remember what he did at 38. At 39, he lost to Gunther. He's not doing that again this year. Sami Zayn heroically wins the title. Sami Zayn beats Drew McIntyre for the World Heavyweight title at WrestleMania. And then on the Monday Night Raw after WrestleMania, Damian Priest cashes in and beats Sami Zayn for the title. Sami Zayn holds the title for 1 day. Damian Priest cashes in, beats Sami Zayn, and then we go to Backlash in France with World Heavyweight Champion Damian Priest defending against Sami Zayn. I'm sold. Brian, Big Boss Man Brian. Sam, keep up the good work. Lots of punk talk recently, so I'll switch it up to you. If you could pick one GCW wrestler to put on the WWE roster, who would it be? Who would they feud with first? Can I say, is Cardona like a two? Because Cardona would be the answer, and I probably have him. I don't know who I'd have him feud with, but if I can't be Cardona because that's too on the nose, I wonder if Effie could survive. You know, seeing Effie and CM Punk battle on a microphone together would be epic. Yeah, I don't know. Effie, I don't know. That Outlaw Macho, maybe Mance Warner, maybe. I don't know. I'd have to really think about that one to tell you the truth. Chris writes in, incredible premium live event. It was a great palate cleanser after the letdown that was Crown Jewel. That's a little negative. I think Bailey is primed for a face run. Yeah, Damage Control will probably kick her out and say that she... Yeah, that's everything I said. And don't worry, you've made an enemy. So I'll take care. I'll see. Yeah, you just pitched me the storyline that I pitched on Monday. Jake, right? What are you doing? This is the one I already read. I started with this. Low Life Danny. First of all, I want to say this is my first time writing in, so not too much on my email. I know you like to bury the people that send the emails into the show. You got to have a thick skin, and you got to know I love you. I love you just for writing in. Everyone. I love you just for listening, for watching, for writing in. But if you write in with some nonsense, I'm going to say, like, if you write in pitching my own storyline to me that I just pitched 2 days ago, then yes, it's going to be rude. Lowlife Daniel writes in, I noticed a couple times you were wildly speculating in the episode after Punk's return to the WWE that you would say whatever era we're in right now. I've had this thought for a while, but I don't have a platform to share my name for the newer WWE eras. You make it and make it stick. You're welcome to share this and use these names if you see fit. Obviously, you have the Golden Era, the New Generation Era, the Attitude Era, the Ruthless Aggression Era, the PG Era. I've heard the Reality Era and the New Era to describe the era after the PG Era, but I feel like it should follow. Okay, after the PG Era is the NXT Era or the Indie Era. I don't like that because it's not all encompassing. I feel like that name encompasses, okay, the storytelling aspects of the Reality Era, but also acknowledges the change of in-ring styles. That's true at the top of the card. I would probably call it the Universal Era, to tell you the truth, because it was when the Universal Championship came out. I probably, instead of the Reality Era, I'd call it the Universal Era. Then this era that we're in right now would be dubbed the post-McMahon era. That's fine, but I think that doesn't credit the people who should be credited. I would say the previous era was the Universal Era, and this era is the Hunter Era. Because that's what's changed everything the last, year and a half. I would say we're in the Hunter era, the Triple H era, the Paul era, whatever you want to call it, and the Universal era would probably be my name for the last one. Gregory said, would you consider yourself a stipulations guy? I wouldn't consider myself much of anything. Alfredo says, hey, can we fantasy book AJ Lee? I'll hear it. But I don't want, I'll hear, oh, what if AJ Lee came in and did this, did that? I won't hear. And then at the Rumble, AJ Lee comes out. It's like, okay, you just want AJ, Okay, Cade writes in, do you think we'll see Jey Uso get involved with Randy Orton's quest to take down the Bloodline? And do you think we'll see Jey turn on Cody? Your podcast is great. Keep up the good work. I appreciate you, Cade. The Randy thing is interesting because, I would imagine going into the Royal Rumble Premium Live event, LA Knight and Roman Reigns will have a rematch. And that's how you'll keep LA Knight out of the Royal Rumble. He's clearly said he's not done. It's how you'll keep LA Knight out of the Rumble to stop people from booing whoever wins, which is smart. It's genius. So the only way I see it happening is if Randy Orton eliminates Cody Rhodes and goes to WrestleMania, I don't think, because realistically, Roman's got 3 matches. He's got Royal Rumble, he's got Elimination Chamber, he's got WrestleMania. Now, no, I don't, because then Jey Uso would have to turn heel going into WrestleMania, because by this, Randy Orton would have Roman at Elimination Chamber? I don't think that's going to happen. And I think Jey Uso goes into WrestleMania as a babyface. So, no, I don't think so. I would hate to see Jey Uso at this point not continue to grow as a babyface, to tell you the truth. Josh writes in, somewhat new wrestling. I'm somewhat new to wrestling and have been watching regularly since 2019. Okay. Though I've been aware of wrestling since the Attitude Era. Well, being aware and watching the product, as you know, Josh, are 2 different things. While I think the Punk-Rollins feud is the way to go first, I think that there's some fun to be had with Roman. A seldom explored aspect of Roman's character is the way to get under his skin every time you bring up the past from Roman's self-perceived weaker self. Rollins did it with mentioning the chair shot. Yeah. LA Knight did it with Suffer and Succotash. Yeah. Book an angle with Punk reminding Roman that if it wasn't for him, Roman wouldn't be on the main roster. I wouldn't mind that. I could see Punk bringing it back to the Shield days. It'll be interesting to see what a Roman Punk story looks like, because it would theoretically have to happen after WrestleMania. Is Roman a babyface? Is Punk a heel, or vice versa? Does Roman still have the title, or are we doing this without a title? There's a lot of meat on the bone there and a lot to dissect. I almost feel like it's tough to speculate on a CM Punk Roman story when we're having enough trouble just speculating on what CM Punk is doing. But I do love the idea of going back to the Shield. I think that that's a very good idea. Alec writing in from Canada. Hey, Alec. I've been the biggest CM Punk fan for a long time. I watched CM Punk's promo last night on Raw and can't help but feel bittersweet. In the isolation of WWE, it was an amazing promo, but if you take into account everything he's done and said while he was gone, it comes across very fake. Okay, I would say that that's not a wrong way to feel. You're asking how I feel. I already told you. I think you got to give it time. I think there was a lot there, and it was a good promo. I think this is how Hunter does business. We've learned this, and sometimes this is good, and sometimes this is bad. But Triple H likes long stories. Some stories longer than they need to be. Some stories finally have the time to breathe in the best way possible. So I think that we are used to a WWE world where a lot more gets hot-shotted. In AEW, Punk stuff, I don't want to say hot-shotted because I guess they took their time before they got him to the world title and everything. But it was like he was immediately going to be the main event guy and wrestling right away. This isn't how Hunter does things. There's no doubt in my mind that there is a CM Punk story that is beginning to be told. We've just got to give it time. And I think it'll pay off, I think. Sam, I was wondering if you could fantasy book a Stone Cold versus Punk program. I think that the only... could be something that could happen leading into Mania. Certainly not this year, Bobby. Bobby writes that in from Indiana. Maybe next year. Certainly not this year. The problem with Stone Cold Steve Austin versus CM Punk is I believe that because Stone Cold Steve Austin and CM Punk are not full-time WWE competitors, that both of them right now would probably prefer to be in the ring with somebody who is a full-time competitor. WWE is wrestling, or WWE superstars are wrestling at a pace the likes of which we really haven't seen before. So I don't think that regularly. So not to say there has never been one match like that, but this is happening every single week. So I think that CM Punk and Stone Cold right now might want a dance partner that's got more WWE experience. Both of them. A year from now, depending on what Punk has done, it could be different. I think that for Stone Cold Steve Austin to come back, what you would have to do is have Punk turn heel and spend a year on a reign of terror. I mean, become an ultimate heel. Somebody who is like WWE fans boo because he doesn't like WWE and we love WWE. And who is going to finally come back and teach him a lesson? Stone Cold Steve Austin fighting for the WWE. That is, in broad strokes, how I would take that. Simone writes in, hope you're well. Can we talk about Drew? I love Drew, but I'm afraid this run won't last. It'll last longer than his kilt did on Raw. I love the Mania triple threat. Loved the matches with Gunther and Seth at SummerSlam and Crown Jewel, but don't see any clear plans for him in the long term. I'm assuming this was sent before Raw, because anybody that watched Raw knows that clearly Drew McIntyre beat up a dude in his underpants with a jacket, a guy in a leather jacket and underpants on, with his head bleeding from headbutting a championship belt, is about the scariest thing you've ever seen, okay? I don't think Drew's got anything to worry about in terms of where he's going next. I'm assuming that that question was, even at Survivor Series, though. Like, I mean, can we all understand now that when he left angry, it was an angle? Are wrestling sites that reported that he left the arena in a huff, ready to admit that this was an angle. I think Drew's in pretty good shape, finally, and it's been a while. D Moore, 475 was awesome. I loved all the fantasy booking. Thanks, buddy. Ultra Boy writes in, what's the haps? I'm happy hell froze over. Which one of these impossible dream matches would you like to see most? Optional, but if you like, rank them. I'm not probably going to rank them. I don't have that kind of time. Kenny Omega versus 2009 Undertaker. Oof. AJ Styles versus 2006 HBK. Gunther versus 2005 Kurt Angle. Bryan Danielson versus 1987 Bret Hart. Will Ospreay versus 2016 John Cena. Seth Rollins versus Eddie Guerrero. As much as I love all those, probably Bryan Danielson versus Bret Hart, I love. It would probably be very similar to Shawn versus Bret. Not quite as showy, but where would the story be best? Probably Kenny Omega versus Undertaker, to tell you the truth. That's probably the one. That's the one that keeps coming back to me. Sam, I'm a big fan. This is coming from Andy in Australia. What did you think about me saying this after War Games and Raw? Could we be looking at a bill for WrestleMania 41 and Cody versus Punk for the title? Yeah, we could, but that would imply that Cody's going to win the title, hold the title. I mean, fantasy booking a year and a half out is... They don't even book a year and a half out. You want to fantasy book a year and a half out? Punk rolls... We have a year to build where Punk rolls through Seth. I don't know if rolls through Seth is right. But he will not get the title, as this is where Priest cashes in and takes the title. I got a better opportunity for the title and Priest. I already pitched it. Then Punk moves on to Randy and then Roman. No, I mean, you're just having Punk come in and beat everybody. I'm not for that. Punk comes in and beats everybody, and then he fights Cody Rhodes and, like, loses. Like, everybody sees that coming a mile away, and now everybody's been beaten. So, no, I don't think that's a good idea at all. Chris writes in, I acknowledge you as the greatest wrestling podcaster. I appreciate that. I think that should happen a little bit more often. I'm still working with the WWE Universe to get you in the broadcasting booth for Raw or SmackDown. I think that is something that everybody would benefit from. My question is, where the hell is Jade Cargill? We haven't seen her wrestle or make any type of appearance. Curious on your thoughts. Well, she can't keep making appearances if she's not going to wrestle. She's made a ton of appearances. She can't keep making appearances if she's not going to wrestle. The foundation has been laid. Again, this is something that Triple H does. He loves long. He loves taking his time. Every time he goes in that press conference, he takes off his glasses and he goes, I'm not afraid to take my time. I'm not afraid to be patient. I'm not rushing. That's Triple H, every single press conference. So that's where the hell Jade Cargill is. I would guess right around Royal Rumble time. I think Jade Cargill is getting keyed up, tuned up, ready to go. And I think what they're doing is they want to make sure that Jade Cargill has a WrestleMania match that is truly epic. It is imperative that if Jade Cargill is at WrestleMania, it's like as good a WrestleMania match as you could have. They, I believe, would like to have Jade Cargill have a moment like Bianca did with Sasha. A match like Rhea had with Charlotte this year. Like something that really people write home about. This is Bianca versus Sasha made Bianca. And I don't know if Sasha Banks gets enough credit for that, to tell you the truth. Not that she deserves all the credit. Bianca deserves a lot of credit. I'm saying that Bianca gets a lot of well-deserved credit. I don't know how much Sasha gets for it, and she deserves a lot. But I think that that's the idea. She's going to make a spectacular entrance. And when she does, it's off to the races. You can't have her show up in November and have her just be the shit and then go all the way to WrestleMania. We still got many months. How do you maintain it? That's the other thing. You want somebody to be a top star at WrestleMania. If you debut them now, you got to maintain that for a long time. Or you could chill for a while, then have them come in. Rob writes in, big fan, first-time emailer, content creator on Instagram. Love your takes on wild speculation. I use some of your takes in my picks. That's awesome. Send them my way. If you tag me, I'll repost. especially if you write this is from Notsam Wrestling, make it a whole thing. Michael from Chicago, where do you think LA Knight will challenge Logan Paul for the U.S. Championship? I believe more than ever, LA Knight should become champ. Would the Rumble be pushing it too fast to let Logan Paul defend it before facing LA Knight? Look, they've already said that on SmackDown this week where they made it seem like Logan Paul might defend the title. I would imagine not. I would imagine that Logan Paul is going to find out who he's defending against. I would keep the title on Logan Paul until WrestleMania. I think that he's definitely wrestling at Elimination Chamber. So let's say Logan Paul's got 2 matches between now and then. You got to have somebody that's going to be like really good, that's going to take care of Logan, and somebody that's going to like be able to be, spectacular. So, let me try to figure out right now who it could be from the SmackDown roster. If we've got 2 people that are going to get pay-per-view Logan Paul matches before WrestleMania, and they're going to lose, because otherwise I say AJ Styles, but he's going to lose. Although AJ Styles might be a big one. I might go, yeah, SmackDown roster's looking light. Especially on the babyface side. I guess probably AJ Styles. Have Logan Paul beat AJ Styles and then move on to LA Knight, I think. It's probably the way to go. Cornelius writes in, Dear Not Sam, is AEW the new NXT? No. NXT is NXT. Is WWE using AEW as a stepping stone to gain back fans? No, but I think this is why competition is good. If wrestlers can build equity in organizations that are not WWE, WWE is always going to utilize that. And historically, they have always. From the beginning of WWE, when WWE became national, Vince McMahon took the biggest stars that he could from every territory that he could. When he realized he wanted to run live events in Minnesota, he ransacked AWA's roster. He took people from Crockett. He took people from Florida Championship. When he wanted to move into Canada, he started taking people from Calgary. It's a tale as old as time. Guys from WCW coming over. Goldberg ended up over in WWE. If people can build equity outside of WWE, WWE will always execute on that. And by the way, if people build equity in WWE, this is something AEW has executed on. This is just the way wrestling works. Keep up the good work. I'm a Syracuse native, and it's time to represent. I love Syracuse. I'm a Syracuse graduate. Spent 4 years in Syracuse. It was a very cold 4 years, but I had a wonderful time. Let's see. Jack writes in, last time I emailed just saying, hey, this time I have a topic. It's Cody who Nakamura is after. I was very surprised. What are your thoughts of where it could go from here? I think it's great. I think, it gives Cody something to do between now and the Royal Rumble, quite frankly. And who knows? Maybe Nakamura eliminates Cody from the Rumble. Right? Like maybe this goes further than we think it's going to go. But we've got 2 months to go before the Royal Rumble. So I think it's a good thing. I love it. I love, big, scary heel Shinsuke. All right. Arlie writes in, first time emailer, just started listening to the podcast earlier this year. Appreciate it, man. I've always wondered about the terms of the Money in the Bank contract, which states the holder can cash in for a championship match at any time for a year. With that stipulation forcing a champion into defense, why hasn't anyone taken advantage of part-time champions being absent instead of looking at it as an obstacle? I don't think you can win by forfeit. For example, for Roman when he isn't around, I don't think you can win the money in the... You can't cash in the Money in the Bank briefcase when the person's not there. That's why. Obviously. It's never happened. Yeah. It's a funny loophole, but there is no precedent for somebody cashing in the Money in the Bank and winning via forfeit. Lupe writes in, with War Games on Survivor Series for the second year straight, it looks as though this is an annual thing for the time being. Yeah. My question to you is, do you think it will risk the same fate as Hell in a Cell having to be annual? No. Also, no, the problem... So, there is no organic reason for a War Games match. It's so rare. So, you know, I think that the way that WWE operates right now is that they know that War Games is coming up in 3 months. So they can tell the story. We used to say that, right? The problem with the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view is not, well, it's once a year, so it forces matches into the Hell in a Cell that shouldn't be in the Hell in a Cell. The problem was that they didn't look at the calendar 3 months in advance and put together a program that would end in the Hell in a Cell. Now, look, Hell in a Cell, I think, is something that you could pull out for a WrestleMania. You could pull out for a different pay-per-view that becomes a spectacle in and of itself. I think Royal Rumble, Elimination Chamber, both being staple matches, are totally fine. And I feel the same way about War Games. You know, I think the same way that historically at Survivor Series, it was Survivor Series teams, meaning you had to have teams, that War Games follows those same rules. You know, I don't, unless you start putting people into War Games matches for no reason, just don't do that, right? You only need to do it once a year. Don't do that. We saw it coming like before Crown Jewel. We were like, oh, we were already predicting the War Games because we saw it being built in front of our eyes. Eric writes in, I had to email again. How good is the day of going to be for CM Punk's return on the cock? Everything on the cock is good. I can't believe I'm going to be able to go on Peacock and say the name CM Punk. That's wild to me. That was my favorite part of the promo last Monday night, is just seeing him on Monday Night Raw. It was so surreal. Michael writes in, hello to the tribal chief of all wrestling podcasters, Mr. Sam Roberts. I appreciate that. Am I a bad WWE fan for not being excited for the return of CM Punk? No, I'm not a fan of the guy, but can respect what he brings to a wrestling company, but still I'm not a fan. I'm sure I'm not the only one. Absolutely not. There are plenty of people that are not fans of CM Punk. I talked to somebody today that was like, can you explain to me what the big deal is about CM Punk? There are so many wrestling fans that were not watching wrestling in 2011 that are wrestling fans today. We get emails all the time from people who just became hardcore wrestling fans this year. The idea that the importance of CM Punk is going to be lost on a lot of people, or that people just aren't fans, I think is totally fair. Okay, last email. I can't be here all day. This is the last one. This is from Andrew in Springfield. One of my favorite parts of the pod was the rule concerning Randy Orton. Now that that ship has sailed, could we replace it with a rule about not fantasy booking someone else? If so, who would you pick? I mean, I really don't know right now. I'm going to think about it, guys. You let me know. This is how we're bookending the show. You let me know. What does the third rule need to be? You can email me at notsamwrestling@gmail.com. You can leave it in the comments on YouTube. You can leave it in a review on Apple. You can also send your email again. I was inundated with emails over the last 2 days. And I mean, everything I read, I think, was sent since Monday. So I'm sorry for the people that emailed before Survivor Series. I'm sorry for the people who emailed right after Survivor Series. If there's an email that needs to be addressed, just send it again. And hopefully I'll get to it. I appreciate all you guys hanging, banging, watching the product, speculating wildly. And we'll see you soon. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Hit like, subscribe, comment. Go to Apple. Subscribe to the podcast there. Leave a review. Leave a rating. Go to Spotify. Subscribe to the podcast there. Leave a rating. And I'll see you again soon.